Love is a crown that I'm willing to be haunted. She said to me, do you wanna be the last man standing? She said to me, do you wanna be the only one complimenting? Ooh yeah, yeah, I wanna be your beginning and your end. Mm-hmm. I can't believe she's still there. Mm-hmm. All right, all right, all right, all right. You're welcome on Blackhotfire Network. It's Africa Mariah from Kampala, Uganda. Whew, today's topic mm, is about Pan Africanism, and actually, um, Pan Africanism has lost its meaning in Africa. Actually, it lost its meaning way back when they had their, of course, last conference in Manchester. That's when the Pan Africanist movement, of course, had their conference. And since then, we've not seen a lot of Pan Africans coming together to, I guess my light, I can see the reflection of the light in the camera. So I'll try to change it next time. It's projecting high. So we see a lot. Actually, the funniest thing of this, the funniest thing of all, is a lot of dictators are also Pan Africanists, and they even chair the Pan Africanist debates and meetings. Actually, they even head Pan Africans committees and conferences in Africa. Absurd, right? I think a lot of people don't really understand what Pan Africanism means. And of course, it was created to bring a bond, a brotherhood feeling uh, within the Africans, both in Africa and those outside Africa. Pan-Africanism movement was formed in order to unite the Africans all over. I'll simplify it that way, all over the world, so that Africans should be united all over the world. Like Africans should have a common goal. We should identify and understand ourselves, whether you are living outside Africa or in Africa. We should be one people. That was the major purpose of Pan Africanism. Now, you cannot tell me about Africa uniting and you're somebody who is a dictator, because I've seen a lot of African presidents claim they are Pan Africanism. They are Pan Africanists, sorry. So they believe in Pan Africanism. That's what they want the world to think. And we've seen a lot of people who want to fight the so-called dictators in Africa, also wanting to come with a lot of criteria and the logics of those people who fought for the Africans. For example, the Black Panther Party and these other party, the People Power Party, of course, which existed even before the Bobby Wine of Uganda. So we can see a lot. We see the likes of Julius Malema using their thumbs, their feet, and Bobi Wine, of course, using their feet. Somehow, actually, me, I even get angry when I see such kind of people pretending you camouflage with something so huge, with something that holds a lot a lot of power, with all your puppetness, because these are people, I call them decoys. So you want to use your thumb because you believe there are some people who have studied about the journey of a lot of Africans fighting for unity, fighting for freedom, and you come and start telling me you are using Black Panther logic. You're following the footsteps of Marcus Garvey, and you're following the footsteps of a lot of Pan-Africans, when actually you even don't understand what they died for. Okay, you don't understand what these people died for, but simply because and most of these people know that a lot of Africans don't really understand things. They believe that Africans are just people who watch things in the movie and they let that go. We watch, a lot of people who fought for Africans, and yeah, we get to know, okay, so that was it. That's what happened in the US, and we let that go. But we forget that a lot of these movies were written, directed, and of course by these very bazungus. So in the movies, there is no a lot of the real concept of what these people were fighting for. Robert Williams, thank you for coming through. Habari. Mpelelezi chocolate drop Moreka. Malikia Mweusi, yes. Asante sana for that. Malikia Mweusi kweli. I'm a brat. Thank you so much. Mbona hivyo roll, but thank you. Thank you. The good thing those others have not understood what you wrote. But thank you so much. Niko Malakia Mweusi. Dwight Davidson, thank you for coming through. Hello, thank you for coming through. Yeah. So a lot of these people usually think that very many Africans do not really understand. Okay, we do not understand the history. We don't understand those people who fought for African freedom. We do not understand for those people who fought for the rights of the Black people all over the world. What's up, Maria? Okay, K. Williams, thank you for coming through. Okay, you can have a nice lunch as you're listening in. Thank you so much. So people go ahead and they use this to manipulate the mind of the people. I usually love to use examples of where examples that I know best. For example, I'm going to use Bobby Wine. So when Bobby Wine came as as someone who was on the Uganda's government opposition side, and for the fact that he was using this feast, and then he used the red. A lot of South Africans, of course, by the way, he has got a lot of South African supporters, more especially those who support Malema. So this guy knew what he was coming, in for, and he knew how he can manipulate the people's mind. We know people power. Ugandans don't really understand that people power is something bigger than Bobby Wine. Ugandans don't really know that there was people power before even Bobby Wine existed. Now, for the fact that he chose to use people power for different reasons, because I'm not someone who believes in his strategy or his memorandum and everything, because he's a puppet. Okay, but I don't care with the people. Those who support him, it's okay. If I, as Maria, I don't. And I see him as a decoy. He's just as the same as the current president. So I see him as a decoy. They're all the same, no different, no difference. So he comes in, uses that. A lot of people outside Africa who know what people power meant, those people who know what the raid, CABE, and whatever stands for, those people who know the meaning of this feast, they get so overwhelmed. And they're like, we got somebody. And this is someone who stands in and says, I'm a Pan Africanist. But if you go back and cross check what he used to do, he was somebody who also used to kill others for money. And then this is someone who wants to come in power and proclaim, I want to be a president. Like, seriously, even before you were a president, you killed people for the current president. You are given money with your thugs. You killed people for the crown. What am I even talking about before somebody comes in for me? I'm closing that chapter. But anyway, now you can see how these people tend to manipulate. Even the current president of Uganda says, I'm a pan-Africanist. You're a pan-Africanist? Really? Really? Do you know what it means to be a pan-Africanist? Do you know what those people died for? Okay. So before, and of course, yes, I know he named a lot of Ugandan streets. He named them after a lot of Pan Africans and also a lot of freedom fighters from both America to all over the world. So we got all those streets down here. Uh, we got the Marcus Garvey Street. We got Martin Luther King was a sellout, but we got his street. We got like a lot of those great people we've had in our Black history. We got the streets here in Uganda. So, but that does not simply, remove away the fact that you are not following the right cause that everyone should focus on. Imagine even we see a lot, even the presence in Senegal, everywhere they're talking about we are Pan Africanists. You don't really understand the concept of Pan Africanism. You see, and the only thing people in Africa believe in that if you are somebody who just denies the current, leadership, that means you're a Pan Africanist. That it doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that if somebody disagrees with the current president in their country is a pan-Africanist. A pan-Africanist is somebody who believes in black brotherhood. No matter what, you are in for the good of the black people. You are ready to sacrifice even your life to make sure that these people live a better life. You're somebody who puts black life before your own life. That is just simple as that. Everyone can define it the way they find fit, but this is how I define it. A Pan African should be somebody who is willing to fight for the rights of Black people, somebody who puts the lives of Black people before his own. You see, it isn't about you trying to disagree with whoever, whoever. We are Pan African movement. We're gonna move around the city. Probably one day. People have a misconcept of this. And actually, the more Africans get, disorganized, the more Africans get little knowledge about this, the more they get confused about Pan-Africanism. That's how we are going to get these and fake leaders all over Africa. You don't lift your thumb. Sometimes I feel like I should cut some people's hands off. You don't lift your thumb like that as you're a murderer. You be killing other black people like the current president. You're putting your feast like, seriously, do you know what this feast stands for? Do you know even the power this feast holds? And then from that, they've been doing their comedy somehow. I sometimes look at people and I'm like, look at this comedian now. You think that we are all stupid. We don't really understand this matrix. You think we don't really understand what's going on. Let me fast read the comments. Pan Africa has to be a two-way street. Pan African is slowly dying due to the low effort of cooperation. Okay, that was Robert Williams' comment. Exactly. K. Williams says Pan Africa has to be a two-way street. I'm glad to see you made it to work today and not on vacation. No, don't say like that. It's not that. Yeah. Not that way. At times. But I've always, last time you didn't come, I was here. When was that? Tuesday, I guess. I couldn't come yesterday because my lights came back a little bit later. I moved to this new apartment and I was trying to put things together. And my sockets, I guess, had some issues. So I had to get the sockets fixed. So by the time I was coming, it was late. So I couldn't. General Mosquito, hi. Thank you for coming through. But it's not that I'm always on vacation. Stop it. I hardly have vacations. I'm a very, very, very occupied person. I'm always busy. So yeah. And so we saw and we read about people in history who actually meant a lot. People who felt like Black lives is very, very important to them. People even who lost their loved ones because of supporting, Black people. We see in history women leaving their husbands because their husbands are, not letting go struggles for Black people. We've seen a lot families, rejecting their own children because they're putting Black lives, before their own. And we've seen a lot of people, but now, I feel like the people we are having right now who keep on talking about Pan Africanism, they kind of, have a different conception. What was that? On the 3rd of this month, actually, I was invited to a Pan African summit, except that, of course, I was a little bit busy. I couldn't make it. But we had a lot of professors, and I was at it. So a friend of mine had to put me on Zoom, and I had to, listen what they were debating about. Actually, so there is what we call Martyrs Day here. We have some people who died for religion. People were rebelling against kingdoms, and they were killed. They were banned. So they usually call them martyrs. And it was Martyrs Day that day that a lot of Pan Africans in Uganda, of course, came together with the theme. They were like calling it, did they die for, did they rebel? Were they killed for rebelling, or did they die for Jesus? So um, it's like these people were, of course, they were in an argument, and others say they only rebelled because they were stupid and all that. But in this debate, I realized that a lot of Pan Africans actually, I don't know about outside Africa, sorry, Uganda, but most of them here still follow Jesus, and their concept is a little bit funny. And if I was there, probably we would have a little bit of you know disagreement. But I'm very glad that I was not there at the time, because these people are so mature. Some of them are professors, and a few of them, of course, were like looking at these other people dying was a way of rebelling, and the story was long. So, but according to the few things I listened to when they were discussing, I came to realize that a lot of people don't really understand what Pan Africanism is about. Now, these are very professors who do believe in, white man's education. Those are very people who do not even stand to fight for the students at school. But they know the moment I'm chosen as a Pan African chair, or a chair leader in my country, or a chairperson or chairman, that means I start. It's a title that I'm going to hold. That whenever there is an advantage, or there is some allowance given to Pan Africans, of course, somebody is going to have that allowance. If they are calling Pan Africans to join all over Africa, probably in Addis Ababa or whatever, so these people will go. They just want to have those titles. They don't really understand what they're supposed to play. They don't understand the role they're supposed to play as Pan African. Do you did you look into that, Robert? This is the first time your glasses actually matched your. What is it now? Oh God damn it. This- Your mosquito, like seriously, why are you always like this? A holistic doctor here in the UK says out of all his patients in Uganda clients, the humble. Oh, really? Out of his patients, his Ugandan clients, said they humble. Ugandans are humble. Let me tell you the truth. First, we laugh a lot. We are always laughing. We are always smiling. We are humble. We are very humble, and he's not lying for sure. We are humble people. You can ask our neighbors, you can ask those people in Kenya, you can ask the people in Tanzania, they will say, hey, Ugandans are very humble. We are very humble. Yeah, he's not lying. Whew, yes. so then so a lot of the Africans here actually one thing that comes in our mind when someone talks about pan-Africanism probably is someone, of course, who stands in for Africans and maybe their own continent. I don't Their own countries. I don't really think if they their mind expands beyond the borders, because I'm not seeing a lot of Pan Africans in Africa talking about Africa's economy. Actually, we do not even talk about we trading with each other. Though, when a lot of African presidents are talking about Africa's economy, of course, they talk about we having an internal, trade or every Mama, good evening, good afternoon, kid. You're going to ask all the where? All the Ugandans that, I'll ask my Ugandan that stole my money some years ago. Really? How sure are you? But anyway, yeah, of course, there's some others who steal. There's some others who do. People do that shit everywhere. But we are humble. Am I not humble? Am I not humble? By the way, I'm a typical characteristic of a Ugandan. But they stole your money. They, I don't know. Maybe that person was, a little bit mixed with the Ghanaian. I'm not a Ghanaian, a Ghanaian man. Anyway, so when we talk about Pan-Africanism, we expect to have, a common marketing ground, especially in Africa, where at least we are able to do, because of we have got a lot. There are those countries that are good at agriculture. There are those countries that are rich in minerals. There are those countries that so Africa as a whole can have its own market and actually be able to trade within Africa borders and develop rapidly, and also decide to have industries, because now the biggest problem that Africa is facing is not being able to produce stuffs, not being able to manufacture things. And when we look at other African presidents who really want to have you know market the intermarketing with other African countries, you realize that these other countries put a lot of uh, they put a lot to make sure that these other countries do not trade with them. It would be of a great advantage if like African countries look at each other as brothers. Okay, it would be so great if we look at each other as brothers and work together as brothers or as but when Amzongo wants to trade with Africa, they leave every, even the tariffs and the taxes that they're given is not as high as an African would want to trade with another African country. For example, if like Uganda wants to trade with Kenya, you realize that they are putting a lot of laws that are going to make it hard for Uganda to trade with Kenya. And they will also want like you to pay a lot of taxes before it says, okay, you're having free trade. Now, East Africa itself created a free entry and a free exit within East Africa countries. You don't need a passport to move to Kenya. You don't need a passport to go to, of course, Tanzania or some other African, East African countries. But still, you will find that there are some laws that they put that makes the movement a little bit complicated. Now, if you want to trade with Africa, why should you put a lot of, you sign a memorandum of understanding, of course, but you still make it so hard for these other countries to be flexible. Because there is no way I will trade with you if I have to pay a lot of taxes, if my business people, the business people of my country are not benefiting from this trade, if what they're getting from there is at a higher cost than what they're supposed to sell. So you can see that we have got a lot of disorganized leaders in Africa who only think about themselves. Because what is the problem of me moving down to Kenya and purchasing a bag or something? It is okay. But I cannot buy that bag and I have to pay a lot of money that is twice the price of the bag at the border, paying it to the Kenyans. Yet I bought it from the Kenyan, Nairobi, and I have to pay before it enters Uganda. You pay twice the price of this bag you bought. So you see, Africans, they don't really understand. They keep on talking about we Pan-African leaders, we are going to meet and have a summit tea and all blah blah. Stupid, baby. You don't do shit like that. Africa has to unite, and the fast way, and the fast way, and the fast way Africa can develop its economy is Africans trading within themselves. We have enough free market, we have enough free trade, people being able to trade freely with each other. Of course, there are some African countries where you can visit without a visa, but there are some African countries you cannot go to. You need to have a visa. Africa should be a free place where everyone should move freely. If I want to go to, of course, South Africa, or if I want to go to the western part of Africa, maybe Senegal. But by the way, Senegal and Gambia, we don't need a visa. More especially, by the way, a lot of Ugandans don't need visas. A lot of Ugandan citizens don't need visas to travel, to very many African countries. So you just have to have your national ID and that, to show that it's really you, because of course everyone has to have an ID. You just don't move like that for security reasons and also for your own safety. So people move to different countries in Africa with their IDs, which is okay. But there are a lot of African countries also which do not allow. So before you come to Nigeria, you should have, and it is funny that Nigeria also wants a visa. It wants a visa, so you should have a visa to get to Nigeria. Idiots. Yet they be wanting to come to people's countries with no visa. Shit. Keep Lizzie's mother too about that sugar daddy stuff. Carol Williams. Yeah, I'm not going to read those things now. Greetings, family. Lando Winter. Thank you for coming through. Thank you for coming through. Robin is. Thank you for coming through. Hello. Hope you're doing good. Huh. Mm. Thank you for coming through, sister. Woo, she's one female on the chart line. Anyway, so you guys, what do you think about Pan Africanism in Africa? And do you feel like the Pan Africans in Africa? If I told you know any, I bet if you even know any, but if I told you know any, what do you think about Pan Africanism? And do you feel like it is very effective in Africa? Are you feeling the spirit of Pan Africanism in Africa? And are also feeling it outside Africa, or has it lost its meaning? I remember the last really big conference was in Manchester years ago, very many years ago, where Pan Africans all over the world came together and, of course, start to debate about very, very important things. I've not seen Africans doing that again. I've not seen Pan Africans doing that again. I've not seen Pan Africans of Africa meeting those outside Africa, of course, the ones in the US and Germany and Britain and everywhere. I've not seen these people coming together to discuss about important things. That means Pan Africanism has actually lost its meaning, because everyone, I will wake up and say, I'm a Pan Africanist and blah, blah. But we've not seen these people choosing one of their very effective leaders like it's supposed to be. We are not seeing Pan Africanists having their representative in the US, probably calling upon those in Africa to meet. And this is how actually we can only gain unity. This is how we can gain unity, is when we got people who are representing the majorities. We choose the minorities. We make a group, for example, in the US or London or UK, wherever. You sit together and say, we are choosing this group. And you come together and debate about real shit, debate about matters that are very, very important, you know. But the funniest thing, the Africans, Pan Africanists, are, of course, the president of Africa. The president of Uganda is a Pan Africanist. Eh, eh, mm, he is. He is. Even calls himself, he is. He has a Pan African day here. So we celebrate Pan Africanism. We've been march in the streets. Shame. I am, and likewise. Thank you. To trade with each other, Africans must remove the hindering effects, such as all religion, tribalism, and demarcation lines, which separate Africans on a basis uh, ethnicity foolishness. True, true. Africans do not know or believe in Pan Africanism. It always comes from the outside the continent, because the Africa is too damn tribal. Yeah. Yeah, but Africa even has a Pan African flag. They have this flag. They have these people who choose themselves. Um, Africa is such a crazy place and very funny. And so we got Pan African leaders who choose themselves. So they decide, I'm a Pan Africanist, crazy shit. But they do that thing. They do it. They choose. They even have a Pan African flag. It's not like this green, red, black stuff. They have their own. It has a star in between, in the middle. It has some green and white. Pan Africanism is only viable if Africans recognize themselves as one group beyond all the ethnic groups. True, true. And this is what I'm talking about. Every African, I'm saying this because it's what is happening. Every African leader now and then is a Pan African. This is why these people have a misconcept of this. Is a Pan African. But these people still believe in tribalism. They do not expand. They do not extend their love beyond borders. They do not extend their peace and freedom beyond borders. We have not seen African trade. Before we had African trade markets, where at least we had markets that used to sit at least once in a month, where different Africans from a given region would meet to carry out trade. Now, yes, we have some trade shows, but they are not vibrant. Those days we had ECOWAS, we had COMESA, and all these markets have faded. Where we have the market from the western and the eastern parts of Africa. All traders from the western part of Africa would meet with the eastern traders in one place, and people would drive miles. If this time we decide that this trade show is going to be in Nairobi, people will move from Nigeria, Senegal, Gambia, where to come and meet over there to carry out trade and see how the East Africans are doing their things and see. So, but with the time, the relationship of Africa was cut off. We stopped doing trade within, each other. We do not even have trade markets. We don't have even have shore, trade shows in East Africa. We don't have that anymore. Simply because the Mzungu said, stop and stop it. And then the puppet said, yes, sir. We are not doing that anymore. But if Africans had moved on that pace, we would be very far, by the way. Because through trade, we have interrelationship. Of course, you cannot trade with someone you don't have a friendship with. And if there is friendship, of course, each of you will have something to fight for, something to protect. So I guess the Mzungu saw that if Africans continue trading with each other, we may end up uniting or probably being something strong. You know, we may end up being something strong. So, Pan Africanism is only available on every that. Africa Maria, they said, stop that shit now. Pan Africanism was their attempt to create a sense of brotherhood, collaboration among all people, African descendants, whether they live inside or outside of Africa. You cannot have real Pan Africans with cultural differences to include religion, colonialism, mindset. To General Mosquito is giving us a definition of Pan Africanism. Then, of course, Pan Africans were the attempt to create, had the attempt to create a sense of brotherhood and collaboration. That means Africans were supposed to collaborate with each other, collaborate, work together, have common belief, and among all people of Africa descendants, whether they lived inside or outside of Africa. That was the purpose of uh, Pan Africanism. You cannot have real Pan African. You cannot have real Pan Africanists with cultural difference to include religion, colonialism mindset. Two, true. Um, we before now we had some men who are real and some women who are ready to take Africa, a step further. And I can tell you, the moment Mzungu realizes that Africa is going further, they try a lot to stop it. They try several much to stop Africa's progress. I'm not like trying to say probably that the reason why we are like this, that's a long story. But they try several much to make sure that we do not progress, no matter how we try it. They try so very much because these people are still controlling Africa. So what they tell our leaders to do is what is done. You know, is what is done. So you can see even the education system, they decide which course units you're going to do. If I told you you're at a university, they decide. They choose. You don't teach them this, teach them the other. Now, a lot of African, schools are turning to, they're trying to introduce, practical work, more especially, hands-on work compared to the system that Mzungu had introduced. Mzungu's system was all about reading and reading and reading and reading the books. Okay, and now they are having issues. Recently, they are trying to say they are going to stop crediting Africa's, they are going to start crediting Africa's certificate because Africans are trying to defile their concepts. But how can you be controlling the entire world like that? You think we are going to study what you want us to study? You're teaching us about your history and all that bullshit. And then the funniest thing and the saddest part of it all, in your curriculum or in your course units, there is no Africa learning their history. But by force, whether we like it or not, in order for us to be credited, in order for our certificates to be credited, we are supposed to study their history, but not ours. How crazy is that? But yes, these are the African leaders who will agree to that simply because, you don't be Pan Africanists doing that shit. First of all, you're supposed to build an army of Pan Africanists. And how do you do that? You teach the young generation the truth about who they are. Because this is how we get to know who we are, and this is how we get the strength to fight. Or this is how we understand who our enemies are and how we can, go about everything that is dumped against us. But now we are not allowed to study Africa's history. We got a lot of medias all over Africa. Almost everybody want to be a journalist, but you don't go to a media house and talk the truth. You will have a show for 1, 2, 3 days. The fourth day, boom, the media, you're chased away from that media house, or you're even arrested, or even people start questioning what you're teaching about because these people want the Africans to stay in the dark. They don't want black people to understand that truth. You shouldn't know that truth. First of all, you shouldn't know you were great. You shouldn't know the powers you possess. All we know is there is somebody up before us. We come after Mzungu. That's why I say if Mzungu is in a camera and is talking about Africa, Africans will listen in. They will believe very fast. But if it's somebody who looks like them speaking the same thing, they will start saying, they will not believe. They will think you're lying. They will not believe in what you're saying, probably because they feel like we are so stupid or we are very dumb to have the knowledge or probably to understand. So it should be Mzungu who should tell us what to do. It should be Mzungu who understands us more than any other. And maybe the funniest thing of all, I have a Mzungu here in Uganda who says, I am a Pan-Africanist. He's a mayor of there's a place called, this Mzungu has been here for quite some time. And he believes he's a Pan-Africanist. People are crazy. And whenever he comes to Pan-African Committee, everybody's like, yeah, crazy. How can even be a Pan-African? I'm me. So last time he was standing in for mayor, except that recently he came as a mayor and they did not vote for him. They did not vote for him. Because the only thing he was doing, he creates a tarmac to from his door to the main road. And that means people who just live close to him are the ones who benefit from that. And everyone was saying, you are too selfish. You only do stuff for you. If you're not benefiting from something, you cannot do it. That's how they are questioning this Mzungu. But imagine a Mzungu being a Pan-Africanist. Our biggest initially, Pan-Africanism was started to help Africans in their diaspora. gain equal rights. True. Yeah. And integration with our enemies created all the inappropriate behaviors and mental problems and health issues we are facing today. Sorry, sorry for that. We are facing today as a people. Our society is uh, tainted, nether, mhm, Neanderthal parasites. Our society is tainted Neanderthal parasite. Our biggest disease is self-hatred, which leads to all our trust issues we have as people. Yeah, self-hatred, by the way. I don't know. I don't know why a lot of Africans not believe in themselves. And even if they believe, and for the fact that they don't believe in themselves, they also don't believe in other Africans. Okay. And this is the problem we have. We During the days of COVID-19, we saw a lot of African, young African as coming out to, manufacture COVID-19 vaccines and all that. But African countries do not even support, they do not even believe that these medicines or the vaccines made by their fellow Africans is going to work. And all they did, Bazungu should come in and tell us if the things are going to work. You guys should send your vaccines abroad. What is it with abroad? And this people said we have tried to work on this, we've got the medicine, and a lot of Africans actually did not believe. They even did not buy these medicines. Rather, they buy from China, India, wherever. You don't buy from your own Africans who have said they have made these vaccines, but simply because you couldn't do it and you're black, so you couldn't do it. So these other blacks cannot do it because you couldn't do it. Who said that? Hmm? Colonialisms and white God created self hatred. You know, I'm always very, I always ask people a question when it comes to the white God. I always ask people a question, okay, if Jesus is white, if Jesus is a Mzungu, whatever your God is, why is it that people have to they have to pray in their local languages? Does this Mzungu hear my language? Does he know my language? I don't know. That is their own story. But that is it. There is also one pastor who told me black people were not humans. The Bible itself says that black people were not created by God. They were not molded by God's hands. So God did not actually get the soil and mold black people. And he was telling me, you know, when God created Adam and Eve, and from Adam and Eve, and then they gave birth to Cain and Abel, two, sons. So it's like if they gave birth to Cain and Abel, how did they reproduce? Because if you're telling me Adam and Eve gave birth to two sons, and then how did they produce? How did they marry? How did they have children? And they said, because after they moved and they went and married. I said, whom did they marry? How did they reproduce? And this pastor was like, because there were those other things. And which were the other things? They were the black people now. I said, this man is just so sick in the head that even he doesn't understand. He doesn't understand his own book, the book he's reading. He doesn't understand it. Rosette. Our biggest disease is self-hatred. So you can see for him, he even felt like we are not created. So I was like, okay, so if we are not created by God, do we still believe in heaven and hell, that God rules? So if we die, why should we go the other side? Or is it only made for the bazungus? He said, but because we are creatures. So I was like, so we were the creatures that God just spoke and said, let there be these creatures. Whatever. But that is how, that's why everyone in the Bible believes in their own. Our biggest disease of hate in their own. So anyway, um, we believing in this. First of all, the moment you believe there is somebody, higher than any other, the moment you believe that Mzungu is, above you, that's how you're going to make everything, wrong. That's why you're going to fail. Because a lot of Africans do not believe in themselves. Dead is white. If you see a white light while being unconscious, it means you are reincarnated back to this dimension. The real universe is pure blackness. That is Lando. Lando says dead is white. If you see a white light while being unconscious, it means you were reincarnated back to this dimension. The real universe is pure blackness. Well, I guess that is very thick, honestly. And hmm, if you see a white light while being unconscious, I've never been unconscious. I don't know, but that is thick. I can say. So these very people believe if Jesus is a Mzungu, definitely, there are still those other people who also believe that if Africans have got their own myth. They've got their own myth. That's why some of them look at albinos like they are different kind of people. Some of them feel like they should kill albinos for rituals. Do you want to be rich? Kill an albino. You want to get cured from HIV? You can have intercourse with an albino, something like that. You see the skin problem, because for them maybe they see these albinos like they are gods, maybe because they are bazungos. That's what they think. They don't know these other people. They're Africans. They're just Africans 100%. So this is the issue. And of course, when it comes to religion in Africa now, it's not something even we should be shouting about. These people who are leading these religions, no. Woo! Sorry. Right. That's funny. Oh man. Huh? Terrible. Ah, Come on, just call to give me some bad news. I'm sorry. Terrible. But anyway, let me finish up this. Can I really finish this up? I don't know. I got to end the show here. I'm so very sorry. Um, um, very sorry. I have to end this. Okay. My brother just lost his daughter, and I didn't know. Oh, so I have to end this. Thank you very much, guys, for damn it. Oh, thank you, guys. Thank you so much for now I have to end this. Okay. See you on Monday, guys. Sorry.